You're viewing a virtual reality video. The goggles allow you to turn your head so that you can look all around you to experience the scenes. If you're watching from a computer, use your mouse or arrow keys to move around. Whether you're part of a family farm that has been passed down from previous generations, you work on a large agriculture operation, or you're a newcomer to the agriculture industry, you know that farming is hard work. Farming has evolved in the past several decades, but despite all of the technology that has in many ways automated tasks and made better use of labor, there's one thing about farming that hasn't changed. It can be hazardous, especially where electricity is concerned, if you fail to plan the work. Every year there are people working in farm settings who make contact with high voltage power lines. Some of these contacts result in lifelong health implications, and some people lose their lives. Usually the reason why someone tangled with a power pole or line is because they just didn't see it. So the most tragic part of these farm accidents is that the injuries and the deaths could have been avoided. Avoiding accidents involving power lines and poles starts with knowing your surroundings. So make hazard awareness the very first part of your work by conducting a safety tailboard or job hazard assessment. In case you haven't heard that term before, a safety tailboard and job hazard assessment just means a process to identify the work to be completed and all of the potential risks you might encounter in your work, and the tactics you'll use to keep yourself and everyone else safe. As part of your safety tailboard, you'll enlist everyone involved with the work to actively spot, monitor, and negotiate hazards. If you're the driver maneuvering a tall piece of equipment like this auger, it's your job to walk the desired path and look up so that you know where electric lines are located. But you should also have a spotter to help you maintain a distance of at least 50 feet from any power line. It might be tempting to try and save a few minutes by keeping the equipment extended while you move to another location, especially if you're racing the weather or daylight is waning. Don't fall into this trap. Always lower the auger to travel to another location. Investigations of auger-related contacts indicate that almost all of these incidents occur when moving the auger in the extended position. Know your equipment, whether it's your own or rented, and be alert to differences in dimensions so that you can always maintain that 50-foot distance from wires and a safe distance from poles. When you're working on your own, you should still conduct a job hazard assessment before entering a field. Look up and note the power lines. Look around for poles, not only on the edges of the field, but on its interior where they might be feeding power to a structure or a well pump. Make sure that you're at least 50 feet from wires before you extend sprayer booms, and be aware of how equipment automation could potentially create a hazardous situation. If there's a pole or a line in an especially troublesome or highly trafficked spot, notify your electric co-op if you believe there is a danger, and they can help find a solution. If you do hit a power pole or a wire, notify your electric co-op immediately, even if there isn't any visible damage. If wires are draped over your equipment or laying on the ground, stay in the cab until assistance arrives. If the equipment catches on fire and you must exit, make sure to jump clear of the equipment and hop with both feet together until you're at least 50 feet away. If the wire is on the ground, make certain everyone stays back at least 50 feet. When you're working with irrigation, your day's work should begin with a safety tailboard that includes all workers involved in your project. Locate all electrical hazards and make sure everyone understands that equipment and metal pipe should stay 50 feet away from wires. It's extremely bad for power lines to be hit with high-pressured streams of water, so be aware of overspray as you're determining coverage for your field. If you're going to be digging, call 811 to locate any underground lines before you get started. Your electric cooperative wants to hear from you when you notice any sagging or low wires. Before stacking or unstacking hay, complete a safety tailboard of your work. When you're the one driving equipment, always look up and keep power lines in mind. Train everyone working on the job about their role in maintaining safety. Yes, everyone. Don't let your regulars fall into complacency, and don't let your seasonal workers lack the knowledge they need to adopt safe work habits around electricity and accompanying hazards. Avoid stacking hay beneath power lines. Not only could it put your equipment within that 50-foot danger zone, it's a fire hazard. Be cautious when you're working around trees, brush, and structures that can obstruct your vision of power lines, and remember that when you're working at dusk or at night, hazards are even harder to see. If you do hit a pole and an overhead wire goes down on your equipment, stay in the cab and don't directly touch any metal. Call 911 and be sure to mention the downed line so that the emergency services dispatcher can contact your local power cooperative. If you must leave the cab due to fire, jump clear so that no part of your body touches the equipment or the ground at the same time. Land with your feet together and continue hopping with feet together until you are at least 50 feet away. Don't re-enter the area until the power company gives the all clear. And if you are able to remain in the cab, sit tight until the power company or first responders tell you it's safe to exit. Start actively identifying power poles and wires to avoid a tragic farm accident. Make it a habit to conduct a safety tailboard at each work location, identifying any hazards, and plan how you'll avoid them. Keep a 50-foot distance from any wire and adequate distance from poles, and be aware that your situation can change with weather, lighting, and different equipment. Remember, look up to live.